Hey everybody, Ashley Page here. Welcome to our educational vlog for today. As always, we're delighted that you are with us and we appreciate you spending the time with us. What we always try to do with the educational vlogs is to get information to you and material to you that's what we call below the headlines, to give you a better understanding of how on the portfolio team we work and a lot of things that we look at. Our topic today is U.S. worker productivity is the highest it's been in 10 years. What does that mean for markets and your money? The U.S. Department of Labor tracks unemployment and the job creation like you saw last week, but they also track more detailed figures that we look at 5Plan on things like worker productivity. It goes a little bit deeper dive than that. So as opposed to what you saw in the popular press last week, which was on job creation and unemployment, that is not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about is how productive the U.S. worker is that's in the job now. Number one, what is worker productivity? 1 hour of productive work that one employee does. It includes everything in the retail sector, in the service sector, the manufacturing sector, but it is not agricultural in that sense. So it's everything non-farm. So you can imagine across all industries in the country, that is a large task to pull all of that data together. U.S. Department of Labor does that continuously through the year. But about this time of year, they produce their productivity numbers from the year before. And that's what happened this past week on Thursday, May 6th. Worker productivity was up from 2019 to 2020 by 5.4%. That is a big number. Usually worker productivity is up about 1% per year. And that's the way it's looked over the last decade. So you've had from about 2010 to about 2020, a U.S. productivity and the worker pick up about 1% a year, all of a sudden went from 1% to 5.4%. So it's amazing tick up. So obviously what we want to do is look behind that and see why that's occurring and why that's important for your money. Number one, many times when you come out of the back of an economic downturn like we did with the pandemic and you start moving again, you'll naturally get some U.S. worker productivity increases because demand gets tighter. So a good example of that is, let's say that you're a small supplier supplying a large manufacturer you've just gotten and landed the major new order. You're going to figure out more productive ways to handle that. So what normally happens in the short term with work productivity in an expansion is that it will go up for a little while and it'll kind of peter back out. We're not seeing that this time, and we think that could bode very well for the near-term future, meaning the next 10 to 7 to 8 years in markets and money. Here's why. This large worker productivity expansion we've got right now looks eerily similar to the early 1990s. And in the early 1990s, what was going on there? The internet came into our lives in the way that we worked, in the way we did business. It ended up moving the whole floor up in terms of worker productivity. And think about how markets did in the 90s. They did extraordinarily well for 4, 5, 6 years there from about 1994 on. And so much of that was embedded in worker productivity. We feel like that what happened with the pandemic, the internet, of course, was very positive. The pandemic was tragic, but what they seem to have in common was a huge change in the way that companies decided to use workers and be more productive. I'm a great example of this today. A year or two ago, we'd have probably filmed this educational vlog in the office. I'm working remotely doing it. It's a lot more efficient in many ways. So what happens is that basically every decade or 2 decades or so, you get this major underneath dynamic on worker productivity that really has a tendency to move you up beyond just sort of the short term. Think about it, that 1% normal growth in worker productivity kind of makes sense when you think about it. You know, I learned to do my job a little bit better each year. And so that marginal pickup, 1%, makes sense. But think about this past year. All companies across the country have had to totally reinvent themselves in the way that they work. And that has made them a lot more productive. And we told you on an earlier vlog when we were discussing this that we thought that some positive permanent changes would come out of the pandemic. This is a key one of those, because why is U.S. worker productivity so important? Here's the reason. This is what we really want you to remember. When companies are more productive with their workers, number one, they're more profitable, the companies themselves. Number two, they are able to give out raises more frequently to the workforce. Why that is important. More consumer spending. So worker productivity is one of these dynamics where you can kind of combine an increase in consumer income and the velocity of spending, plus companies in terms of their own profits moving up. You get those two going together, it's very powerful. Let me tell you what's also very powerful about that. It has a tendency to be not nearly as inflationary. So that's why we follow this dynamic so closely on U.S. worker productivity, because it's kind of a sweet spot to help your economy grow faster and markets and your money grow faster. So if you have any further questions about that, feel free to call any of us at the office. We appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you with a little bit more depth of information that you just don't see in the popular press. We hope you've enjoyed this and realize what the value of it could be for the next few years. And we hope you have a great rest of the week. Thanks for watching.